Director, Head of Programming and Engagement here at the Avalon Free Public Library. And we are so grateful today to have Carol Fitzgerald from the Bookreporter Network here. This is her 9th year in a row coming to us, so we're always very grateful to have her because she brings with her the latest and hottest reads that we all put on our TBRs, and our TBRs just grow, and it's so difficult, but we'll get there one day. We'll get there. All right. So to give you a little bit of information about Carol, she's the founder and president of the Bookreporter Network. The company's websites, bookreporter.com and readinggroupguides.com, have become the gathering places for a large and devoted community of book lovers since 1986. The Bookreporter Network is recognized as an online leader of informed and contemporary book news, reviews, and author interviews. Website visitors can read reviews and author reviews, subscribe to newsletters, participate in active polls and contests. So if you haven't checked out their website yet, please do so. The bookmarks up here will lead you directly to the website and all the information on how to sign up for the newsletter. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to Bill.
Thank you, Karen. So appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight on a humid night in the beach. You know, I look forward to this presentation every year. And we sit in the office and we try to come up with what the books are going to be. And we have like, okay, pull this one in, take this one out. I was changing books until Friday afternoon. And I was just there like, okay, move this one, move this over. I heard about this book, I think we should include it. And that's the most fun part about doing this. We do a preview online, usually the second Wednesday of every month at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And when we do that preview, I try to see if I can do it in an hour. And sometimes I go over. And we do quarterly presentations. We'll do another one in the fall. Where we do fall, January, and April, where we talk about the next season's books. So if we do those in the evening for those, as we say, work at their desks instead of just pretending that they are and listening to us. So we have lots of opportunities to hear about books, but we like to bring it to you where we're talking to an audience like this, where I can see you nodding or being excited about the books at the same time. So we're going to start out with fiction, and there's some great fiction coming this summer or out already. I'm going to talk to you about Speak to Me of Home by Janine Cummins. So how many people read American Dirt? Remember American Dirt? This is the author of American Dirt, okay? So she is back. This book is really interesting. I am going to tell you a hint up front about this book. When you get it, inside there's a family tree. Either make a copy of it or flag it, because you're going to need it as you go through the book. To remember who, they say it's 3 generations, it's really 4 generations, okay? So here's what we've got. On her wedding day in San Juan, Puerto Rico in 1968, Rafaela Cuna de Juan has mild misgivings when she marries Peter Brennan Jr. in a blaze of romantic optimism. She is so excited. And they're going to be living in Puerto Rico. And she has no way of knowing how dramatically her life is going to change. When she uproots her young family and moves to the American Midwest, St. Louis, where somebody's Puerto Rican, they don't understand. They don't understand as far as they're concerned, you're the help, okay? And it's got a number of disappointments that happen for her there. And then in the 1980s, against the backdrop of her mother's isolation in St. Louis, her daughter, Rafaela, Ruth, only wants to belong. Ruth only wants to be, part of something. Eager to fit in, she lets go of her language, her habits, her childhood memories of Puerto Rico. She's turning off where she was. It's not until decades later, when Ruth's daughter, Daisy, returns to San Juan, that the mother and grandmother start to really talk about how they feel about their choices that have come to define their lives. It's really interesting because a lot of us had grandparents that were immigrant parents who came over, and when they came, did we do away with what our ancestry was, or did we continue to live it? So, but keep in mind, just remember I told you, there's the family tree in front. Next we've got Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's going to be here in a couple of weeks. This is on sale now. It is so well done. Joan Goodwin is content with her life. She's a professor of physics and astronomy at Rice University. And she's an aunt to a really precocious kid, Francis. And then all of a sudden she comes along and sees an advertisement seeking the first women scientists to join NASA and to be part of the Space Shuttle program. And suddenly, Joan wants to be part of the astronaut program. She wants to do this. So she's selected from thousands of applicants in the summer of 1980. So we think about space travel now as something completely different. Put it back in 1980 and what was going on. And Joan begins training at Houston's Johnson Space Center alongside a really exceptional group of other astronauts. a number of people who are very, very accomplished. And they're all accomplished in different ways. And they become unlikely friends and start preparing for their first flights. And she finds a passion and love she never imagined. And in this new light, she begins to question everything she thought she knew about her life and her place in the universe. And then in December 1984, on a mission STS-LR9, it all changes in an instant. And so this is what's happening in mission control and what's happening up in the stars. And when I was a little kid, I wanted to be part of mission control. I thought that would be the coolest job of being able to tell the astronauts this way to go. You learn about what that's really like, and it became easy. So I highly recommend if you go see Chandler, if you get a chance to. We got to see her, my friend Beverly and I got to see her when she was in New York, and it was just a really terrific evening. Next we Park Avenue by Renee Hadai, and this is on sale now. I am actually listening to this right now. As the daughter of Korean bodega owners, Gia promised herself that she would have every Fifth Avenue luxury when she grew up. She has just made junior partner at her prestigious Manhattan law firm, and she's about to score the Ultralex gold-on-gold Birkin bag, yes, the Birkin bag that she wants of her dreams. So when her boss asks her to sit in on the hush-hush family implosion of a high-level client, she accepts without hesitation, only to find out it's one of the most famous Korean families in the world. And why is she being brought in? Because they think that she's going to be able to understand and be able to speak to them. So the Park family's net worth is estimated at $1 billion, and their mega successful Korean beauty brand has shaped the culture of the last 2 decades. But the patriarch is fighting for divorce, while his wife is dying, and the 3 children can't stop snapping at each other. And while both family fortune and legacy are under a threat, the worst kind of scandal, it's up to her to set things straight, and she has only a month to do it. So you think about how much fun a book like this is going to be of the setting on Park Avenue, where everybody's lying. All these people are lying. They probably are not worth $1 billion as far as I'm seeing so far. But it's also about those pretenses. As I walk in the room, I can do this, I can do that. That kind of book. Next, okay, we all love Martha Hall Kelly. I mean, have we just loved her book Lilac Girls like years ago, and that's a book we can return to again and again as a good book club book. Well, she's got Martha's Vineyard Beach and Book Club is her latest book. It came out, I believe it was in May. So here we've got 34-year-old Mary Starwood is still grieving over her mother's death as she travels to the storied island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts. She's come all the way from California with nothing but a name on a piece of paper. Elizabeth Devereaux, famous for the reclusive vineyard painter. And now all she wants to do is meet this woman, see how she's painting, see what she is up to. She makes it to her stunning waterfront farm under the guise of taking a painting class with her. Yes, we can all fake what we need to do. And Mrs. Devereaux begins to tell her the story of the Smith sisters who once lived there. And as the tale unfolds, Mary is shocked to learn that her relationship to this island runs deeper than she ever thought possible. So there's Martha's Vineyard Beach and Book Club. My book club is reading that this month because we're huge fans of hers. If you ever get an opportunity, she does an event up in Connecticut in April or May, where you can go up and see the lilac gardens. Of course, we went the week after the lilacs had all died, but you know, we still had a great time meeting her and hearing her about writing about her books. Next, we've got The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater, and this is just out now. She wrote YA for years, and this is her first adult novel. And years ago, we went to stay at the in West Virginia, the Greenbrier in West Virginia. When we were there, we took a tour, and they showed us this bunker room that was part of the Greenbrier, and where all the secret talks had gone on. So just think of this as I give you this book description. January 1942, the Avalon Hotel and Spa has always offered elegant luxury in the wilds of West Virginia. Its mountain sweet water washing away all of high society's troubles. Local girl turned general manager June Porter Hudson has guided the Avalon skillfully through the first pangs of war. The hotel's aristocratic owners have trained her well, but when the family heir makes a secret deal with the State Department to fill the hotel with captured Axis diplomats, she must persuade her staff, many of whom have sons and husbands heading to the front lines, to offer luxury to Nazis with a smile. Meanwhile, FBI agent Tucker Minnick, whose cold tattoo hints at his Appalachian past, presses his ears to the hotel walls. listening for the diplomat's secrets, and they showed you the places where you would be able to hear when we went and toured there. He has one of his own, which is how he knows that June's balancing act can have dangerous consequences. The sweet water beneath the hotel can threaten as well as heal. So there we've got the listeners. I've got some of these books that I'm starting to listen to because I like to listen to see if they're good to present to you. I have parts, I can hear the voices in my head. So, okay, The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. You all know Wally Lamb's books. Two of them, this is the third one that has been selected as an Oprah Book Club selection. I finished this book last Saturday and I have not stopped thinking about it. A week ago, Saturday. It is such a book about emotion and being part of the prison system and being being in a place as a prisoner and what your payback is for what happened in your life, like what you're doing the sort of penance for at this point, and is it something that you can ever get over? So you've got new fatherhood, loss of his job, and a growing secret addiction have thrown Corby Ledbetter's marriage with his beloved Emily into a tailspin. And that's before he causes a tragedy that tears the family apart. He's sentenced to prison, and he struggles to survive life on the inside, where he bears witness to frightful acts of brutality, but also small acts of kindness, and elemental kingships to a prison librarian who really gives him books and works with other people to try to make them feel like they're still part of society. And there's also a tender-hearted cellmate and a troubled teen that's desperate for a role model. Buoyed by them and by his mother's enduring faith in him, Corby begins to transcend the boundaries of his confinement, sustained by his hope that mercy and reconciliation might still be possible, and his crimes ever being forgiven by those he loves. It is such an amazing, emotional book. And what was really interesting about it as well is Wally worked in prisons with women prisoners for years, teaching them writing classes. So from where he's writing is somebody who's understood the way the prison system works, what was going on. He also was an alcoholic and a really deep drinker. And what he would be doing is hiding things from his family on an ongoing basis of what was going on. So when he brings this, it's him being in rehab, what it has meant to him through the years. And really, it's a lot, while this is not his story, he understands the emotion of what would be involved in both sides of being an alcoholic and being in prison. It's extremely well done. It is not your light beach read. I'm just telling you that let's not go there, but it's really well done. I'm still thinking about it. This is So Far Gone by Jess Walter. I hear we did a very funny presentation about this. One of our readers wrote, she said it was just rockingly funny. It's on sale already, so let's talk about what it is. At Thanksgiving a few years back, a fed up Rise Kinnick punched his conspiracy theorist son-in-law in the mouth, shot a smartphone out a car window, and fled for a cabin in the woods, with no one around except a pack of hungry raccoons. Now you can just picture this, of the hungry raccoons just sitting there looking at him. Now his own life is about to land back on his plumber doorstep. How can this failed husband and father, a man with no internet and a car that barely runs, reemerge into a broken world to track down his missing daughter and save his sweet, precocious grandchildren from the members of a dangerous militia? Okay, sounds kind of like interesting to get back into society. With the help of his caustic ex-girlfriend, a bipolar retired detective, and his only friend who happens to be furious with him, he heads off on a wild journey through cultural lunacy and the rumble of a life he thought he had left behind. So there he is, really so far gone. Next I got Among Friends, and I'm listening to this one as well because I'm looking for a pair for the Morristown Festival of Books, which is held up in North Jersey. And I'm trying to find somebody to work with Chris Pavoni, who we already have coming. And I'm trying to find the perfect book to go with him, so I'm listening to a number of books, trying to figure out what's going to be the perfect one, and trying to keep all the plots straight at the same time. And then I finally gave up and wrote all the publishers and said, you have to send me the print books because I'm getting too confused with all the plot lines. So in this book, it's an autumn weekend in a comfortable New York country house where two deeply intertwined families have gathered to mark the host's 52nd birthday. Together, the group forms an enviable portrait of middle age. The wives and husbands have been friends for over 30 years. Their teenage daughters have grown up together, and the dinners, games, and rituals forming their days all reflect the rich bonds between them. This weekend, however, something is different. An unforeseen curdling of envy and resentment will erupt in unspeakable act, the aftermath of which exposes treacherous fault lines upon which they have long dwelt. And one of the things that's happened so far is, as one of the couples was driving up, the man says, oh, you know, I hit somebody in the road. And I hit her and she fell in the middle of the road. And they're like, you hit somebody in the road? Like, what did you do? And he goes, I hit somebody. But she thought that my car was somebody else's car. And as a result, she was trying to like commit suicide in front of him. And we're like, where is this going? And you see that's a setup of like, what's gonna happen from here? And where's the story gonna go? Hal is a debut author. So if you want to read something that's brand new. Next, we've got The Accidental Favorite by Fran Littlewood. A couple of years ago, she wrote Amazing Grace Adams. Vivian Patrick Fisher have done an excellent job of raising their 3 daughters. They're so well-adjusted young women with impressive careers, caring partners, exciting hobbies, and sweet children. So it's great anticipation that the 3 generations of Fishers gather at a beautiful glass house in the English countryside for a week-long celebration for Vivian's 70th birthday. But when Patrick's reaction to a freak accident on the first day of the trip inadvertently reveals he has a favorite daughter, no one is prepared for the shockwaves it sends through that family. Decades-old unresolved sibling rivalries are suddenly unmasked, and be it newly uncovered smoking habits, ancient crushes, or private doubts about life decisions, both big and small, nobody's secrets are safe. So somebody's the accidental favorite. I have 2 sons. One is always joking, am I the favorite yet? Did I get to be the favorite? You know. Next we've got The Satisfaction Cafe by Kathy Wang. It's coming out July 1st, which will be tomorrow. Amazing. All of a sudden it's July. Joan Liang's life is a series of surprising developments. She never thought she would leave Taiwan for California, nor did she expect her first marriage to implode, especially as quickly and spectacularly as it did. She definitely did not expect to fall in love with an older, wealthy American and become his 4th wife and mother to his youngest children. Through all of this, she wrestles with one persistent question: will she ever be truly satisfied? Joan and her children grow older and their circumstances evolve. She makes a drastic change. She opens the Satisfaction Cafe, a place where people can visit for a bit of conversation and to be heard and understood. And through this radical yet pragmatic business, she constructs a lasting legacy. Look at that, Satisfaction Cafe. Culpability by Bruce Holzinger. Okay, I'm saying it here now under kind of silence, but I'm guessing this is the Oprah book, because the date of it moved up from the 28th of July to the 8th of July, and all the other monthly picks have come in, and Oprah usually picks on the 8th, so like on the 2nd week of the month. So when you hear it, you just sit there and go, oh, she mentioned that the other night. So Bruce Holzinger, okay, this book is really interesting. With Cassidy Shaw's autonomous minivan collides with an oncoming car, 17-year-old Charlie is in the driver's seat, with his father, Noah, riding shotgun. In the back seat, tweens Alice and Izzy are on their phones, while their mother, Lorelei, a world leader in the field of artificial intelligence, is absorbed in her work. Yet each family member harbors a secret, implicating each of them in the accident. During the week-long recuperation on the Chesapeake Bay, the family confronts the excruciating moral dilemmas triggered by the crash. Noah tries to hold the family together as seemingly routine police investigation jeopardizes Charlie's future. And Alice and Izzy take strangely furtive with one another, like what is going on? And Lorelei, the mother's odd behavior, tugs at Noah's suspicions that there's a darker truth behind this incident. Suspicions heightened by the sudden intrusion of Daniel Monet, a tech mogul, whose mysterious history has, with Lorelei, hints at betrayal. So we've got a lot of secrets going on in this. And it's really one of those books that's going to look at AI and what does it really mean. Besides, when you Google, it writes you a paragraph now. Yeah. Really kind of interesting. It's like, whoa, look at all that stuff coming right back at me. Yeah. Next, we've got Finding Grace from Loretta Rothschild. This was just picked as one of the Book of the Month Club picks for July. So that just went off the house. Honor seems to have everything. She adores her bright and beautiful daughter, Chloe, and her charming, handsome husband, Tom, even if he works 100 hours a week. Yet, Honor's longing for another baby threatens to eclipse all of it, until a shocking event changes their lives forever. Years later, Thomas makes a decision that ripples throughout their families in ways he never could have foreseen. As the consequences of that fateful choice unfold, two women's paths become irrevocably intertwined. When the old love clashes with the new, who's going to be left standing? And what happens when your secrets come back to haunt you? There's Funny Grace. Next from Sarah McLean, we've got These Summer Shores. It's coming out on July 8th. Alice Storm has been welcome in her family's magnificent private island off the Rhode Island coast in 5 years. Not since she was cast out and built her life beyond the storm name, influence, and untold billions. Ever notice that people in these islands, they have billions? Like, it's not just millions anymore, we're up to billions, okay? But the shocking death of her larger-than-life father changes everything. Alice plans to keep her head down, pay her final respects, such as they are, and leave the minute the funeral is over. And unfortunately, her father has other plans. The eccentric, manipulative patriarch left his family a final challenge, an inheritance game designed to upend their world. The rules are simple. Spend 1 week on the island, complete their assigned tasks, and then they each receive the inheritance. But a whole week on Storm Island is no easy task for Alice. It will be a miracle if she manages to remain unscathed. So there we've got This Summer Storm, literally. Next, from Adriana Trujani, we've got The View from Lake Como, which is also coming on July 8th. Jess, and I am not going to do this last name, because even though I've got Italian heritage, I'm not going there. Okay? Is not living the life of her dreams. She's not even close. In blue-collar Lake Como, New Jersey, and she says that's between Belmar and Spring Lake, that lake in between. There we go. Family comes first. Recently divorced from Bobby Valencia. I love when she does these names. I'm sure she's doing it just so that it makes it hard for people to pronounce. Jess moves into her parents' basement to hide and heal. Jess is the overlooked daughter who dutifully takes care of her parents, cooks Sunday dinner, and puts herself last all the time. And despite her role as the family handmaiden, she's also a talented draftswoman in the marble business run by her dapper Uncle Louie, who believes she can do anything once she invests in a better wardrobe. Because there's always got to be a line from Adriana about that. So as the families endure an unexpected loss, the shock unearths long-buried secrets. There's always long-buried secrets. There are no secrets up here. They're always long-buried. That will force Jess to question her loyalty to those she trusted, and fueled by her dreams, she takes fate into her own hands and goes back to Carrara, Italy. And she goes back to see what's going to happen with Marvel there. Taylor Jenkins Reid said, Adriana never fails to sweep you away. So there you go. Next we've got Greenwich by Kate Broad, coming on July 22nd. Summer 1999. Rachel Fisk is almost 18 when she arrives at her aunt and uncle's mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. Her glamorous aunt is struggling to heal from an injury, and Rachel wants to help and escape her own troubles back home. But when her aunt is oddly spacey and her uncle is consumed with business, she's trying to figure out what's going on. She feels lonely and adrift, excluded from the world of adults and their secrets. The only bright spot is Claudia, a recent college graduate, an aspiring artist, and the live-in babysitter for Rachel's cousin. Summer deepens. Rachel eagerly hopes their friendship might grow into more. But when a tragic accident occurs, Rachel has to make a pivotal choice. Caught between her desire to do the right thing and to protect her future, she's the only one who knows what really happened, and her desire has consequences far beyond what she could have predicted. So there we've got Greenwich. Notice no one lives in a shack. You notice that? Nobody's living in a shack, everybody lives in a big house. Okay? Here we go. Now we got Full Bloom by Francesca Saratella. She is the best-selling author of Ghosts of Harvard. She's Lisa Scott Laney's daughter. So anybody who's making that connection together, okay? It's coming on August 5th. Reeling from a breakup and overlooks her job as a lighting designer, Iris Sonegran finds herself stuck, disconnected, and lonely in crowded New York City. And then a mysterious neighbor, an older French woman, makes her a gift, a bespoke perfume. One spritz, the dab behind the ears, and Iris feels like a different woman. Suddenly, she's the object of every man's desire, and she can satisfy her own hungers for sex, love, and ambition. She can cast off her inhibitions and use her newfound allure to dazzle the high-profile client, attract a man who excites her like no other, and access all the rarefied spaces that once excluded her. Invigorated by her perfume, Iris embodies her maximum power, a flower fully bloomed. But here's a danger in connecting to our primal emotions. Scent awakens buried memories and nightmares of childhood house fire that Iris barely survived, and they return to haunt her. So there we've got Full Bloom. I think it's just a gorgeous cover, absolutely beautiful cover. She's giving away, if you pre-order, she's giving away a bottle of the scent that she created. She created her own scent. So, okay, then we've got Hot Desk. This is a book coming out September 2nd. It just sounds like fun. In the post-pandemic publishing industry, which I will tell you is nothing like the pre-pandemic publishing industry, two rival editors are forced to share a hot desk on different days of the week, much to their chagrin. Because if you don't want to go in 5 days a week, you share a desk, okay? That's just the way it goes. Having never set eyes on each other, Rebecca Bloom and Ben Heath began leaving passive-aggressive Post-it notes on the pot of their shared cactus. But when revered library legend Edward David Adams, known as the Lion, dies, leaving his estate up for grabs, their banter escalates as both work feverishly to land his career-making opportunity. They can work on his book, it's going to be it. They battle for the estate, it's more and more heated. Rebecca learns of a connection between her mother Jane and the Lion. The story travels back 4 decades earlier to when Jane arrives in Manhattan and meets Rose, her soon-to-be best friend. But one fateful day during the April blizzard of 1982 will change the course of Jane's life and their friendship forever. So there you've got Hot Desk, because you never know who's sitting in the desk the days you're not there, and you're going to beat them out for the job. There you go. It's really funny. I like the pencils in the back of her bun. It's so funny. Okay, we're doing some historical fiction. There's not a huge amount usually during the summer, but we popped some through. First is The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau. This is by Kristen Carmel, and it hit the New York Times list last week, the first week it came out. Colette Marceau has been stealing jewels for nearly as long as she can remember, following a centuries-old code of honor instilled in her by her mother, Annabelle. Take only from the cruel and unkind and give to those in need. Never was their family tradition more important than 7 decades earlier during the Second World War, when Annabelle and Colette worked side by side in Paris to fund the French resistance. But one night in 1942, Annabelle was arrested by the Germans, and Colette's 4-year-old sister Liliane disappeared, along with an exquisite diamond bracelet sewn into the hem of her nightgown for safekeeping. Soon after, Annabelle was executed, and Liliane's body was found floating in the Seine, but the bracelet was never found. 70 years later, Colette's life begins to unravel when the long-missing bracelet suddenly turns up in a museum exhibit in Boston. So, when I was reading books about World War II, everybody's always sewing into the hem of their dress, and I'm just wondering, what has not been found at this point? What could still be found as far as jewelry is concerned? Next, we got Typewriter Beach by Meg Clayton, which is on sale tomorrow. This is one of our readers' top picks when we asked them what they were looking forward to reading in the summer. It's 1957. Isabella Giori is 10 months into a standard 7-year studio contract when she auditions with Alfred Hitchcock. Just weeks later, she's sequestered by the studio's fixer in a tiny Carmel cottage, waiting and dreading. Meanwhile, next door, Leon Chizon is annoyed when Iz interrupted his work on yet another screenplay he won't be able to sell because he's been blacklisted. Soon, they're together in his roadster, speeding down the fog-shrouded Big Sur coast. Let's go to 2018. 26-year-old screenwriter Gemma Chizon is in Carmel to sell her grandfather's cottage, and she finds a hidden safe full of secrets, raising questions about who the screenwriter known simply as Chizon really was, and if she can live up to his name. So there's Typewriter Beach. Next from Beatrice Williams, and I know we have a lot of Beatrice Williams fans in the audience. She's the New York Times bestseller. This book was Husbands and Lovers, which did extraordinarily well. This is coming on July 29th. Audrey Fisher has struggled all her life to emerge from the shadow of her famous mother by forging a career as a world-class chef. Meredith Fisher's glamorous screen persona disguises the traumas of a tragic accident that haunts her dreams. Neither woman wants to return to New England Island that they left behind and its complicated emotional ties. But Meredith has one last chance to sober up and salvage her big comeback. And where else but discreet, moneyed Winthrop Island can a famous actress spend the summer without the intrusion of other people. Until Audrey discovers an old wooden chest among the belongings of her strange bartender father, Mike Kennedy, and the astonishing contents draw the women deep into Winthrop's past and its many secrets, attracting the interest of their handsome neighbor, Sedge Peabody, because in her books there's always the handsome neighbor. How did a trove of paintings from one of America's greatest artists wind up in the cellar of the Mohegan Inn? And who is the mysterious woman portrayed on every canvas? So you've got Under the Stars. This book I'm absolutely crazy about. It's coming August 19th. Our summer readers picked this as the top book they wanted to read, and our readers that were talk to us in July, it was one of the top 6. We talk a lot about World War II, and we talk a lot about what happened in World War I and during the wars, what happens in the aftermath. In 2018, Zoe Rosenweig is reeling after the loss of her beloved grandfather, a Holocaust survivor. She becomes obsessed with finding out what really happened to her family during the war. So then we go back to Vienna in 1946, right after the war. Chana Rosenweig has endured the horrors of war to find herself, her mother, and her younger brother finally free in Vienna. But freedom doesn't look like what they had imagined it would, as they struggle to make a living and stay safe. Despite the danger, Chana sneaks out most nights to return to the hotel kitchen where she works as a dishwasher, using the quiet nighttime hours to bake her late father's recipes, things that she has in her head, things that she's trying to remember. Soon Chana finds herself caught in a dangerous love triangle, torn between the black market dealer who has offered her marriage and protection, and the apprentice baker who shares her passions. How will she balance her love of baking against her family's new need for security? Okay? What's really interesting is you think that it's after the war. I had no idea that Vienna was divided into 4 different parts. I don't know if anybody else did, 4 different parts. It was controlled by 4 different governments, and as you went from one part to the other, you put your life in jeopardy. So when this girl goes out at night, she may be walking through the Austrian part, she might be running where the Americans are running. What is happening to you all along the way? I know the author, she's looking for a map that can actually really show you the division of what went on, but it's such an interesting story because it's a story about the aftermath of the war and what happens, and you see what happened with this family's legacy. So well done. Next we've got Whatever Happened to Lori Lovely by Sarah McCoy. It's coming on September 2nd. In 1969, 23-year-old starlet Lori Lovely, the apple of Hollywood's eye, shocked the world by ditching a promising film career to take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience as a Benedictine nun. Gossip columnists and scandal sheets can't get enough of the story. Why would such a beautiful girl take the veil? Was she hiding from someone? Did it have anything to do with the tragic death of her co-star, heartthrob Lucas Wesley? In 1990, Lou Tibbett, under the gun to complete her senior thesis in modern American history, instead of spending weeks in dusty archives, she decides to dig into a true 20th century mystery and write about her aunt, Lori, now the Mother Abbess at a cloistered convent in rural New England. Mother Lori has refused all requests for interviews until Lou arrives at the Abbey with a tape recorder in hand. To her delight, Mother Lori announces she's finally ready to talk, but only if Lou is truly ready to listen. And there's What Happened to Lori Lovely. We get some thrillers and mysteries, and we have a lot of these. Okay, I'm starting with The Doorman by Chris Pavoni. I love this book. It's one of my bets on selections. Okay, let's just get this straight. The building here is called the Bohemia. It's really the Dakota in New York. Like that was his frame of reference. Chris actually lives in the Dakota. And through the years, here's some backstory, really friendly with a doorman there named Johnny. And he would go out and talk to Johnny about baseball, his life. All these things, a lot of times people just walk past Johnny. They never even say hello to him. They just like throw their packages and keep on walking. And Johnny, a couple years ago, got sick. And he left, and they knew he was very, very ill. He came back. All he wanted to do was get back and keep working at the apartment building. It meant that much to him. When he died, he arranged to have his memorial service 2 blocks away, so the really rich people wouldn't have to go that far to be part of, to come to his funeral, okay? That was his inspiration. So here we've got Chicky Diaz as everyone's favorite doorman at the Bohemia. the most famous apartment house in the world, home with celebrities, financiers, and New York's cultural elite. But gathered in its bowels, the building's almost entirely Black and Hispanic working class staff is taking the news that just a few miles uptown, a Black man has been killed by the police, leading to a demonstration, counter-demonstration, and a long night of violence across the city. As Chicky changes into his uniform for his tonight's shift, he finds himself breaking a cardinal rule of the job. Tonight he's going to be carrying a gun, bought only a few hours earlier, but he knew the pandemonium taking over the city. Chicky knows there's more going on as Padgett sidewalk in front of the Bohemia than anyone is aware of. And what it talks about is there is somebody who has an apartment building on one of the higher floors. It's actually 2 apartments put together. And it's all about money. It's all about, and the man there barely says hello to Chicky as he walks by. His wife always talks to him. And then there's a man on the lower floor. The lower floor is about being the less expensive apartments and what his life is like. And the real story happens only over one day when you go back and look. It's one day in the life of the Bohemia. And it's so interesting because you think about how many times people just walk past people and never say hello. And after reading this book, I think I say hello to like every single person I walk past on the street because you're really thinking about, these are the people who really kept the place going. My son's girlfriend was a high-end, a concierge at a very high-end building in New York, and she said yes. She's now working in an ER as a patient representative, and she says, let me just tell you, the influencers, package missing and blood in the emergency room, same thing. It's at the same level of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's not being taken care of. So sometimes the emergency room's nicer. Then we've got The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. It's out now. Many of you remember Julie as this really stellar author of The Last Flight that came out about 5 years ago. She's not letting anybody down here with what she writes here. It's June 1975, and the Taylor family shatters in a single night when 2 teenage siblings are found dead in their own home. The only surviving sibling, Vincent, never shakes the whispers and accusations that he was the one who killed them. Decades later, the legend only grows as his career as a horror writer skyrockets. Ghostwriter Olivia Dumont has spent her entire professional life hiding the fact that she's the only child of Vincent, and her father has been the horror writer all this time. And now she's on the brink of financial ruin, and she's offered a job to ghostwrite her father's latest book. Well, what she doesn't know, though, is that the project is not one of his lies. It's because it's not another horror novel he wants her to write. After 50 years of silence, he is finally ready to talk about what really happened that night in 1975. And what's really interesting is he has a disease that I knew nothing about until a friend recently had it, was Lewy body dementia. And what he doesn't know, he has this dementia that's going in and out for him right now. And what he remembers, what he doesn't, and what is she supposed to trust, and what is she not supposed to trust. So she's on the clock to do this. I'm also crazy about this book, which is called What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. It's also on sale already. So this girl grows up in an isolated cabin in Montana in the mid-1990s. And Jane only knows the world that she and her father live in. The wood stove that heats their home, the vegetable garden where they try to grow some kind of subsistence, the books, her 19th century philosophy that her father gives her to read in lieu of going to school. And her father's elusive about the past. He's not talking about like what happened. Let's think of the timing, like 1990, mid-1990s. What are we doing with the internet? It's about the time we started Bookreporter, where the pictures were like this big on AOL, and it was nowhere near what we are now. It was a dream of what was to come. And you think about how that dream has changed as time goes on. So she doesn't know little about the facts of where they once lived in the Bay Area, and their mother died in a car accident. That's all this girl has been told. She becomes a teenager. She starts pushing against the boundaries of what's going on. Like, Dad, like, I don't go to school. Like, you're teaching me these things. And then she hears about things like the internet. And she starts trying to have conversation on the internet because he is putting out a manifesto. He had worked in Silicon Valley, and his feeling was it was going in the wrong direction. This interconnectivity between everybody was going to be wrong. And how far will he push back about what is happening so rapidly? So all of a sudden, she's got to figure out whether her devotion to her father has made her an accomplice to a crime, and she flees Montana, the only place she knows And she goes to figure out what happened with her mother's death, what is going on, and she goes to San Francisco. So just picture that whole time frame of the mid-1990s and what was happening. It's very interesting because you think about what the world would have been like if that didn't happen, if that internet connectivity wasn't around. Next, we got Fox by Joyce Carol Oates. Our reviewer raved about this one. It is about 600 pages. I'm just warning you, you get through a lot of days at the beach, just to know. Who is Frances Fox? A charming English teacher new to the idyllic Langhorne Academy. Fox beguiles many of his students, their parents, and his colleagues at the elite boarding school, while leaving others wondering where he came from and why his biography is so enigmatic. When two brothers discovered Fox's car half submerged in a pond in a local nature preserve and parts of unidentified bodies strewn about the nearby woods, the entire community, including Detective Horace Wender and his deputy, began asking disturbing questions about Francis Fox and who he might really be. Next, we've got Jill is Not Happy by Kara Ruda. Oh boy, Jill is not happy. He asked Jill Tingley, she'll tell you that she and her husband Jack and Jill, Jack and Jill, there's definitely humor here, are college sweethearts living their dream in Southern California. Theirs is an enviable life, though they've grown distant in recent years. Their daughter Maggie away at college, Jill suggests let's reconnect with each other. Jack wants to do anything but reconnect with his wife. He doesn't want to drive to Utah with her. He's only stayed in this marriage because there's a shared secret, a tragedy in the past that he wants to keep buried. And for his daughter's sake, he's doing that. But Jack is finished with the charade of this marriage, and he's filing for divorce as soon as they return from Utah, and that's it. But what he doesn't know is what Jill is hiding. So this is a cat and mouse road trip. With a cunning wife and a reluctant husband, they match wits and drive each other to the edge. Jill is definitely out to try to win this one. I know Kara, I know her husband Harley. Her husband Harley loves Kara, Kara loves Harley. The only truth about the two of them is they went on a trip to Utah during COVID, and he says, don't even tell me, you're looking that this would be a great place to set a thriller. And she said, yes. He goes, take notes and leave me out of it. But I think he's not really Jack, but Jill, we'll see. Next from S.A. Cosby, we've got King of Ashes. When eldest son Roman Carruthers is summoned home after his father's car accident, he finds his younger brother Dante in debt to dangerous criminals and his sister Navia, exhausted from holding the family business together. They and their father, who runs the Carruthers crematorium, see death up close every day. But mortality draws even closer when it becomes clear that the crash that landed their father in a coma was no accident, and Dante's recklessness has placed them in real danger. Roman, a financial whiz, has some money to help buy his brother out of trouble, but his work with wannabe tough guys, he's forgotten that they're real gangsters out there. As his bargaining chips go up in smoke, Roman realizes he has only one thing left to save his brother, himself, and his own particular set of skills. Does that remind you of somebody particular set of skills? Next, Riley Sager's got With a Vengeance. It's 1942, and 6 people destroyed Anna Matheson's family. 12 years later, she's out for retribution. Under false pretenses, Anna has lured those responsible for her family's downfall onto a luxury train from Philadelphia to Chicago, an overnight journey of 13 hours. Her goal, confront the people who wronged her, get them to confess their crimes, and deliver them into the hands of authorities waiting at the end of the line. But Anna's plan is quickly derailed by the murder of one of the passengers. As the train barrels through the night, it becomes clear that someone else is on board, is enacting their own form of revenge, and they won't stop till everybody's dead. So there's With a Vengeance. Lisa Jewell, her book is out now. It just came out last week. Got a really good review for this one as well. Nick Radcliffe is a man of substance and good taste. He's just what Nina Swan needed in her life after her husband's unexpected death. But Nina's adult daughter, Ash, Nick seems too good to be true. Without telling her mother, Ash begins digging into Nick's past, and what she finds is more than unsettling. Martha's a florist living in a neighboring town with her infant daughter and her devoted husband, Alistair. But lately, Alistair has been traveling more and more frequently for work, disappearing for days at a time. When Martha questions him about his frequent absences, he always has a legitimate explanation, but Martha can't shake the feeling something isn't right. Nina, Martha, and Ash are on a collision course with a shocking truth that's far darker than anyone could have imagined. Now my guess, and I haven't read this yet, it's the same guy. Okay, here you go. Living different lives, going back and forth through towns. Next, we've got El Dorado Drive by Megan Abbott. We have a review of this week as well. It's set in Detroit. Megan grew up in Detroit. She grew up in Detroit where it was the suburbs of Detroit. All of the parents' families worked at GM. They worked in all different divisions of GM. And I was joking with her that I used to do events at Saks Fifth Avenue store out there. She goes, oh, the one that wasn't in a mall, it was at like the Somerset Center or something like that, because we wouldn't have a mall in, you know, in that area of Detroit. That was like, oh, no, that was like the suburbs. That's not what we do. So we've got the three Bishop sisters who grew up and privileged in the moneyed suburbs of Detroit. But as the auto industry declined, so did their fortunes. Harper, the youngest, is barely making ends meet, with her beloved, charismatic sister Pam currently in the midst of a contentious battle with her ex-husband, and her eldest sister Deborah approach her about joining an exciting new club. The Wheel offers women like themselves, middle-aged and of declining means, a way to make their own money, independent of husbands and families. And quickly, however, the Wheel's success, their addiction to it, leads to greater and greater risks, and a crime so shocking that it threatens to bring everyone down with it. So you can picture it's one of these Ponzi schemes that these women have invented. And these suburban women are now, keep it quiet, but let me tell you, you bring in your $5,000 and you're part of, like, you go up the Wheel as well. It's a lot of fun. She does a good job with it. Next we've got Ruth Ware, we've got The Woman in Suite 11. This is from the author of The Woman in Cabin 10. So now we've got Suite 11, Cabin 10, here we go, out next week. The invitation to attend the press opening of a luxury Swiss hotel owned by a reclusive billionaire Marcus Liebman arrives. It's like the answer to a prayer. 3 years after the birth of her youngest child, Lo Blacklock is ready to reestablish her journalism career. The chateau on the shores of Lake Geneva is everything Lo has dreamed of, and she hopes she can snag an interview with Marcus. Unfortunately, he begins to be even more difficult to pin down than his reputation suggests. And when Lo gets a late-night call asking her to come to Marcus's hotel room, she agrees despite her own misgivings. She's greeted, however, by a woman claiming to be Marcus's mistress, and in a life-or-death mystery. What follows is a thrilling cat-and-mouse pursuit across Europe, forcing Lo to ask herself just how much she's willing to sacrifice to save this woman, and if she can even trust her. Next, Daniel Silva. You know, Daniel Silva has a book every July. Here we go. It's The Inside Job this year, coming July 15th. Gabriel Lone has been awarded a commission to restore one of the most important paintings in Venice. But when he discovers the body of a mysterious woman floating in the waters of the Venetian lagoon, and it wasn't after the wedding of this weekend, okay? He finds himself in a desperate race to recover a lost masterpiece by Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know, maybe they took one home this afternoon, who knows? The painting, a portrait of a beautiful young girl, has been gathering dust in a storeroom at the Vatican Museum for more than a century, misattributed and hidden beneath a worthless picture by an unknown artist. Because no one knows that Leonardo is there, no one notices when it disappears one night during a suspicious power outage. No one but the ruthless mobsters and money men behind the theft and the mysterious woman whom Gabrielle found in a watery grave in Venice, a woman with no name, a woman without a face. So there we've got the inside job. Next from Lisa Scottolini, we've got The Unraveling of Julia. I am just about finished with my early copy of this. It's coming July 16th, and she does not disappoint. Julia Pritzker has lost her adoptive parents, and her husband has been murdered. And when she realizes that her horoscope essentially foretold his death, she begins to spiral. Then a letter arrives out of blue, informing her that she has inherited a Tuscan villa and vineyard, but her benefactor is a total stranger named Amelia Rossi. Julia has no information about her biological family, so she wonders if Rossi could be a blood relative. Bewildered, she heads to Tuscany for answers. And there she's horrified to discover that Rossi was a paranoid recluse with delusions of grandeur who believed herself to be a descendant of Duchess Caterina Sforza, a legendary Renaissance ruler. Julia is stunned by her uncanny resemblance to Rossi and even to Caterina. And then she unearths eerie parallels between them, including an obsession with astrology. And before long, she suspects she's being followed and strange things begin to happen. And when events turn deadly, she breaks with reality. And we find out what's really been happening to Julia all along. It's really good. I think I have like 15 more pages, and I said, I'll leave it for tonight. Psychological thriller. Steve Berry is a novel suspense called The List. And he's been writing a series, Cotton Malone series, for a number of years. He's breaking with that with what he's writing here. It's coming on July 22nd. After a 10 years self-imposed exile, do I guess people go in self-imposed exile? I'm thinking I need a self-imposed exile. I mean, I don't want to be taking this, I don't know. Too many people are looking for me. Brent Walker is returning home to Concord, a quaint town in central Georgia, nestled close to the Savannah River. 2 years ago, his father died, and now Brent, hired by the Southern Republic Pulp and Paper Company as its assistant general counsel, is returning to care for his ailing mother. Southern Republic's success is based largely on the highly unorthodox and deadly system to control costs, known only to 3 owners of the company. Now one of them, Christopher Bosin, has had a change of heart. Brent's return to Concord, a move that Bosin personally orchestrated, provides his conscience with a chance of redemption. So when a plan is sent in motion, one that not only will permanently implement Bosin's 2 partners, but also place Brent square in the crosshairs of the men who want him dead, there's only one course left available. So there we've got the list. Sherry LaPena, she didn't see it coming. Sherry's my one-sit read. Those who have been here before know when you start reading a Sherry LaPena book, you can't put the book down. Because she ends every single chapter on a cliffhanger that makes you say, one more page, one more page. So, coming July 29th, you buy it, you're gonna see, you get it from the library, you're gonna see what I'm talking about, folks. You'll be back quickly to the library. That's what I want to hear to Carol, this one came back quick because nobody could put it down, all right? Brian and Sam have it all. Just remember, everyone has it all. Thriving careers, a smart apartment in a luxury condominium, supportive friends, and a cherished daughter. Then Sam receives a call at his office. Bryden, who was working from home that day, has failed to collect their daughter from daycare. Arriving home with their little girl, he finds his wife's car in the underground garage. Upstairs in their apartment, her laptop's open on the table, her cell phone is nearby, and her keys are in the usual place in the hall. Except Bryden's nowhere to be seen, and it's as if she just walked out of the house. How could she have disappeared from her own home? And did she even leave the building at all? I don't know. We'll have to figure this out. Sherry's going to tell us. Next we've got You Belong Here from Megan Miranda. I just saw today, this is also another Book of the Month Club selection. It's coming out on July 29th. Beckett Bowery never thought she'd return to Wyeth Valley, a picturesque college town in the Virginia mountains steeped in tradition. Her roots there were strong. Beckett's parents taught at the college, and she never imagined studying anywhere else until a tragedy her senior year of college ended with 2 local men dead, her roommate on the run, never to be seen again. For the last 2 decades, Beckett has done her best to keep her distance, and then her daughter, Delilah, secretly applies to Wyeth College and earns a full scholarship. And Beckett can only hope that her lingering fears are unfounded, but deep down she knows that Wyeth Valley has a long memory and that the past isn't the only dangerous thing in town. And what's really interesting is Megan's daughter went out to college, and I sat there and I said, really, you cooked this up on the drive there or the drive home? Like, where were you cooking up this story when you were on that college campus? Think about it, though. That would be a fun one. From J.T. Ellison, coming on August 1st, is Last Scene. Hallie James knows her marriage is over, but she's not prepared for the rest of her life to fall apart, too. She just lost her job at a forensics lab, her dad needs emergency surgery, but the biggest blow comes back home in Marchburg, Virginia, where she discovers her mother didn't actually die in a car crash. Her mom was murdered, and her father lied about it all these years. And desperate for the truth, Hallie chases down a lead in Roxville, Tennessee. But all there is, let's finish the sentence, not as it seems. Roxville's utopian charm hides a chilling darkness, and Hallie's search for answers threatens to expose an unspeakable reality. From Sarah Pekkanen, coming on August 5th, It's the crime of the decade when glamorous Georgia Cartwright, who was adopted as a newborn, is accused of killing the biological daughter of her wealthy Southern family. Georgia is locked in a psychiatric institution where the most violent offenders are held while she awaits trial. The only words she whispers when her estranged twin sister Amanda visits are, "I didn't do it. You've got to get me out of here." Amanda doesn't trust Georgia, but she can't abandon her in a place so eerie and menacing that seems to exist in another dimension. In Georgia, the victim of a powerful family that's so depraved that the murder was the least of their crime, or is Amanda being led down a path of madness into a web of a master manipulator? We'll have to see. Lisa Gardner, she switched seasons of coming out, and she's not coming out in August. August 12th is Kiss Her Goodbye. It's really funny, is she's back with the character that we have seen for the last couple of years, Frankie Elkin. When she first wrote this book, she told me it was writing as a standalone, and Frankie Elkin was not going to be a continuing character, which shows that even authors lie, okay? Even they have secrets, okay? So a recent Afghan refugee, Sabira Ahmadi, was last seen exiting her place of work 3 weeks ago. The local police have yet to open the case, while her older domineering husband seems unconcerned. Sabira's closest friend, however, is convinced Sabira would never willingly leave her 3-year-old daughter. And at her insistence, missing persons expert Frankie Elkin is back on the scene and agrees to take the search through the roiling streets of Tucson. Yes, it's just what you will be reading in Tucson in the summer. Just in time for a video of the young mother to surface, showing her walking away from the scene of a brutal double murder. Frankie quickly realizes there's much more to the family than meets the eye. The father is a brilliant mathematician. Sabira is a gifted linguist, and their little girl Zahra has an uncanny ability to remember everything she sees. So when Assad also disappears under mysterious circumstances, and an attempt is made on Zahra's life, Frankie realizes that she's got to crack the code of this family's horrific past. Remember, the past always wants you in these books. And one more, we've got Catherine Faulkner, who wrote Greenwich Park, which I love, that came out a couple of years ago. We've got The Break-In. It's coming August 26th. Alice, professional mother of one, I like that, is hosting a play date with friends at her upscale London home when a stirred man breaks in. With her child in the next room, Alice panics and kills him, an act later ruled to be in self-defense. Everyone tries to encourage Alice to move on with her life, but strange comments start appearing online. A mysterious phone call telling her all is not as it seems, that line that goes into every thriller. And her mother, nanny, and friends begin behaving strangely. Alice finds herself drawn to the mystery of who her intruder really was, and as she digs deeper, she discovers a trail of dark secrets that spy her closer to home than she ever could have imagined. And Christina Baker-Klein, remember Christina Baker-Klein? You know Christina. She is now writing a thriller with Anne Burke, and it's coming out on September 1st. 2 years ago, Haley Stone lost everything. First her parents died in a fire, then her sister overdosed, leaving Haley alone and hounded by a media circus that turned her family's tragedy into tabloid fodder. When her new husband suggested a fresh start in the Adirondacks, the promise of anonymity in the isolated mountain town feels like a salvation, but the mountains hold darker secrets than anything she ever imagined. Her once loving husband grows distant and volatile. The widow down the road keeps spewing vague accusations, and not even their new friends, a free-spirited couple living on the property, can help her shake the creeping sense that something's off. And as winter approaches, Haley discovers that her sanctuary is anything but safe. Trapped and isolated, she faces a terrifying truth. Trying to escape her past, she may run straight into something more dangerous. There's that. And then William Kent Kruger's got his book coming out, Apostles Cove, on September 2nd. The next in his Cork O'Connor series. And I know a lot of people have been reading the series for years. This is the 21st book in the series. A few nights before Halloween, Cork goes gloomily ruminating on his upcoming birthday. He receives a call from his son Stephen, who's working for a nonprofit dedicated to securing freedom for unjustly incarcerated inmates. He tells his father that decades ago, as the newly elected sheriff of Tamarack County, Cork was responsible for sending an Ojibwe man named Axel Bushy to prison for a brutal murder that Stephen is convinced he didn't commit. So Cork is going to reinvestigate this case And the deeper he digs, the clearer it becomes that those in Tamarack County who are willing to once again commit murder are going to keep him from trying to find out the truth. Memoirs, biographies, and other nonfiction. Got a big book here. It's Mark Twain by Ron Chernow. It is a big book, but it's a lot about, before he was Mark Twain, he was Samuel Langham Clemens, born in 1835, a man who would become America's first and most influential literary celebrity, spent his childhood dreaming of piloting steamboats on the Mississippi. When the Civil War interrupted his career on the river, the young Twain went west to Nevada Territory and accepted a job at a local newspaper. And it wasn't long before the former steamship pilot from Missouri was recognized across the country for his literary brilliance, writing under a pen name he would immortalize. And it's a big portrait of him from Ron Chernow, was being the powers to bear on a man who shamelessly sought fame and fortune and crafted his persona with meticulous care. It's a big book. Next we've got Tony at Random. Okay, so what we have is Toni Morrison, who we know for writing Beloved and so many other fabulous books, worked at Random House, and this was about during her time there. She was a multifaceted genius. She transcended her role as an author, helping to shape an important period in American publishing and literature as an editor at one of the most prestigious publishing houses. While her literary achievements are widely celebrated, her editorial work is little known of who she worked with and what she did. And extensive research and firsthand accounts go into this, and they study her journey from her early days at Random House to emergence as one of the most important editors. And she edited people like Tony K. Bombara, Leon Forrest, and Lucille Clifton, and empowering cultural icons like Angela Davis and Muhammad Ali to tell their stories on their own terms. So a really interesting story about a woman in an editorial profession. Next we've got It's Only Drowning by David Litt. David is the Yale-educated writer with a fear of sharks, and Matt, the daredevil electrician with a shed full of surfboards, had never been close. But as America's crises piled up and David spiraled into his existential dread, he noticed that his brother-in-law was thriving. He was doing just fine. He began to suspect that Matt's favorite hobby had something to do with it. So David decided to start taking surf lessons. And for months he wiped out on waves the height of daffodils. And after realizing surfing could change him both in and out of the water, he set an audacious goal. He's going to ride a big wave in Hawaii. He's not going to ride a wave at the Jersey Shore. Now we're going big here. He searched for an expert to guide him and protect him, and he couldn't find one, so he asked Matt to do it. And together they set out on a journey that spanned coasts and continents before taking it to Oahu's famously dangerous North Shore. So there, It's Only Drowning. The River's Daughter by Bridget Crocker is out now. After Bridget Crocker's parents' volatile divorce, she moved with her mother from Southern California to Wyoming. Her life was idyllic, growing up in a trailer park on the banks of the Snake River with a stepfather she loved, a new baby brother, and the river as her companion, until her mother suddenly took up a radical new lifestyle. The one constant in her life, the one place Bridget felt whole and fully herself, was on the river. And when she discovered the world of whitewater rafting, she knew she found her calling. On the river, she learned to read the natural world around her and came to know the language of rivers. And one of the few female guides on the Snake River, she then traveled to the Zambezi River in Africa, some of the most dangerous waters, where she faced death and learned to conquer her fears, both on the water and off. And this is a book I put in at the last minute because I heard Dr. Vonda Wright speak about a week or so ago. And she is an orthopedic surgeon. And one of her thoughts are that women do not take good enough care of ourselves as time goes on, myself included, that to prevent ourselves from falling, getting hurt, and all the things that make you stronger through perimenopause, menopause, later in life, what do we not do? And what she says is strong muscles and bones, increased mobility, lifelong independence, and a new mentality for aging with power. This cutting-edge guide to nutrition, training, and lifestyle will optimize a woman's body for longevity through menopause and beyond. And she's drawing on her decades of experience as a pioneering orthopedic surgeon. She says, you know how many times I get called into the emergency room If someone has broken something, and you see how frail their whole physique is, and you realize that's the reason, something like this happened. And she looks about the time bombs of aging in 4 critical categories: exercise, nutritious, lifestyle, and supplements. And my friend Beverly and I were going through this book last night, and it was really interesting the way she breaks things down for you to really start thinking about what you're doing with your body and taking care of yourself. So we have 1 book of poetry, and I'm doing it for a reason, because I'm not a true poetry lover. Many of us are not. It's by Miranda Kelly Heller. She wrote The Paper Palace. This book is called What the Deep Water Knows, and it's a book of poetry that she was writing at the same time that she was working on The Paper Palace. So you'll see her beautiful metaphors of water that went through that book. You'll see how her poetry draws on the same thing as well. And just, I've been picking Bookreporter bets on selections all year. Didn't completely update this site except for the Lost Baker of Vienna. I've got I guess 18 of these so far. More than 18, yeah, so far. And we do video podcasts and interviews. Recently it was Janine Cummins, Julie Clark, and Rory Foster. And we have summer reading picks. We've got all kinds of contests that are running all summer where you can enter and try to win one of these books. And to you all, have a great summer of reading. I hope I gave you ideas of what to read.